Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we are looking at something that honestly sounds like a wild childhood fantasy, but it was executed with the exact precision of a serious aerospace mission. We're breaking down the incredible journey of a creator who decided to launch a custom-built Lego plane all the way up to the edge of space, just to see what would happen when it plummeted back to Earth. And this wasn't just, chucking a toy into the sky. We're talking a meticulously planned operation with high-altitude weather balloons, 3D printing, and a desperate bid to keep miniature passengers alive during a violently chaotic freefall. So let's dive right into it. What are the actual stakes here? Basically, can a Lego plane survive a fall from the literal edge of space? To answer this, the creator essentially ran an NTSB-level crash test. The engineering challenge alone was absolutely massive. They had to build a craft lightweight enough to legally enter commercial airspace, tough enough to hit near-space altitudes, and resilient enough to make sure the tiny passengers inside could survive an uncontrolled freefall back to the ground. Because here's the deal. If a passenger falls out of their seat during the crash, they don't survive. Those are the strict rules of the test. All right, let's jump into Phase 1, engineering the spacecraft. Now, when picking the aircraft for this space crash, they didn't just go with a standard Boeing or Airbus. Nope. Instead, they chose what might be aviation's most underrated plane, the de Havilland Comet. The Comet is famous for its gorgeous, retro round nose, which just makes it a perfect, iconic subject for a scale model. But strict airspace regulations dictate exactly how heavy an object sent into the stratosphere can be. So to hit these super strict weight requirements, the creator turned to advanced manufacturing. They fired up a massive Bamboo Lab H2C 3D printer. That's right, this wasn't just off-the-shelf heavy plastic Lego bricks. This was a highly optimized custom 3D printed model. This process allowed for a build that was incredibly precise and unbelievably light. After gluing that ultralight frame together for extra strength, they added the final touch, a custom spaceship livery. Using special silver and gold filaments, they gave the Comet this amazing, retro spacecraft vibe perfectly suited for a cosmic journey. But here's where things got tricky. That beautiful, scaled-down round nose created a massive interior problem. A standard Lego minifigure? It just simply didn't fit in the seats. And remember, for this crash test to actually be valid, the figures have to stay seated. So what was the solution? The creator 3D printed custom minifigures. These tiny, perfectly scaled little passengers designed to fit flawlessly into the first class and economy cabins. But as a brilliant control variable, they did manage to squeeze one standard full-size Lego figure loosely into the very back of the plane. Just to test its survivability against the custom 3D printed crew. To actually get this plane to the stars, they needed serious aerospace hardware. The creator teamed up with Sent Into Space, a highly specialized aerospace team based in Sheffield, England, who are famous for sending crazy objects up into the stratosphere. The rig included a high-altitude balloon tether, a flight data recorder, a radar deflector so passenger jets could spot it, and a triple camera array to capture the entire crash. But before any of this even took flight, the team ran some absolutely crucial vacuum chamber tests on the plastic fuselage. Think about it. At 100,000 feet, air pressure is literally 300 times lower than down here on the ground. They had to guarantee the sealed little plastic cabin wouldn't just explode from the extreme pressure changes before it even started falling. Which brings us to Phase 2. Ascent to near space. Launching from a converted airfield in Ashbourne, right in the center of England, the Comet climbed at a rapid 6 meters per second. This central location was actually carefully calculated to ensure that when the balloon eventually popped, the prevailing winds wouldn't drop the plane into the ocean or, a neighboring country. Piercing the first cloud ceiling at 6,000 feet, it was drifting perilously close to the active airspace of East Midlands Airport by 22,000 feet. Then, at 37,000 feet, our Lego craft entered the realm of modern commercial airliners. And what's wonderfully poetic about this is that the historic de Havilland Comet had a maximum cruise altitude of about 40,000 feet. So our little 3D printed model effortlessly blew right past its namesake's historic ceiling and just kept going upwards into the dark. By the time the craft passed 60,000 feet, which was an altitude once ruled by the Concorde, the environment became incredibly hostile. Temperatures plummeted to a bone-chilling -56 degrees Celsius. At this height, the sky above begins to turn this deep, vacuum black, and you can clearly see the thin blue glow of the Earth's curvature on the horizon. The plastic, the glue, and those custom miniature figures were enduring atmospheric conditions that would instantly destroy most standard electronics. Moving into Phase 3, the 100,000-foot free fall. At this staggering height, the balloon had expanded to the size of a detached house, and the tension was just through the roof. Floating way up there above the mouth of the River Thames, practically 97% of the Earth's atmosphere was beneath the aircraft. The team tracked the telemetry like hawks, waiting for the exact split second the cord release mechanism would trigger and sever the connection to the balloon. And when it finally triggered, it was absolute chaos. Mayday, 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 the plane is out of control. The release cord actually whipped wildly around the fuselage during the detachment. The insane force of the uncontrolled, tumbling freefall immediately sheared a wing clean off the aircraft, and that was quickly followed by the horizontal stabilizers. In seconds, the aerodynamic profile was completely destroyed, sending the comet into a violent, spinning nosedive straight through the stratosphere. The violence of that descent took an immediate toll. 2 of the 3 cameras were completely destroyed, just snapped right off the mountain rig, as the debris quickly hit terminal velocity. Yet, miraculously, the heavily glued main cabin actually held together. Despite tumbling through 34 kilometers of atmosphere and completely shedding its structural airframe, the core fuselage protecting our miniature passengers remained astonishingly intact during the multi-hour plunge back through the clouds.
And that leads us right into Phase 4, crash investigation and results.
So after a parachute successfully deployed at the very end of the fall to slow the final impact, the comet crashed nose first into a wheat field in Cambridge. That is a staggering 125 kilometers away from the launch site. The Sent into Space recovery team tracked the GPS, retrieved the wreckage, and finally cracked open that fuselage. And guys, the survivability data here is fascinating. The standard full-size Lego figure, the one loosely seated in the back because it didn't fit the scale, failed the crash test entirely. 0% survival rate. However, the custom Bamboo Lab 3D printed mini minifigures, sitting snug in their first class and economy seats, achieved an incredible 92% survival rate. Only one tiny figure separated from its legs during the violent impact. That completely customized engineering, it totally validated itself. But there was still one more crucial piece of data to check. The team pulled the flight data recorder because they needed to see if they had accidentally broken a Guinness World Record. The current record for the highest altitude launch of a Lego set sits at 34,988 meters. Well, the final telemetry revealed the Lego Comet maxed out at exactly 34,880 meters. They were painstakingly close to making official aerospace history. They missed the world record by a mere 108 meters. When you analyze their flight rate, that equates to roughly 20 seconds of ascent time. The automated drop sequence triggered just 20 seconds too early. If that balloon had held on for just a fraction of a minute longer, this 3D printed de Havilland comet would literally be in the record books. But honestly, despite missing the record, the durability of the craft and the wild success of the crash test itself were a massive victory. So to wrap things up, I really want to leave you pondering this. What everyday object would you engineer for a journey to the edge of space? Because what this explainer really illustrates is just how incredibly accessible near-space DIY engineering has become today. With the power of high-quality 3D printing and the expertise of high-altitude recovery teams, the barrier to testing your wildest ideas in the stratosphere is lower than ever. It's just a beautiful intersection of pure creativity and hard science. Thank you so much for exploring this amazing mission with me, and keep looking up.